Now, uh, turning back to WrestleMania, the card's really coming together. We know about Brock and Roman. We know about Charlotte and Ronda, which is going to be fantastic. But Kevin Owens has been insulting Texas in promos, and the rumor is Stone Cold Steve Austin might come back for a match with him at WrestleMania. Now, I've not talked to Steve. I don't know if you have, but what would you say the odds of that happening are?
I don't know because, yeah, I know that Steve keeps himself in very good shape. I have talked to him. I've not asked him that question. We probably talk once a month, but, and I'm not gonna ask him because I wanna be surprised. But, I would just hope that Steve goes and sees Doctor Youngblood or whoever. I think that was Steve's surgeon in San Antonio. I mean, if Edge, Edge was able to come back from a serious, but I don't think Edge's was as serious as, Steve's. So, I tell him all that it's hard to believe Austin retired at age 39.
Yeah, he hasn't had a match in since 2003, The Rock at WrestleMania. That's a long time to come back after, isn't it?
Okay, how many years is that?
Um, 19 by my count, but
And
I'm no math
and
major.
he was 39, I think.
Right, right. He's
So
57 right now, going on 58. Correct,
39 years, right?
correct.
What if Steve could wrestle till he was in his late 40s for sure? I mean, where would the history of the business be now if Steve had wrestled till he was 45?
Yeah, but I mean, don't you? Isn't it good to leave him wanting more? I mean, I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
it served him well.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I'm talking about for him.
Right.
How much money can you have? I mean, and Steve clearly loves the business. He respects it. And there's another guy that do it over to AEW. Vince will be watching with two monitors.
Well, Nate, if you're looking at it from Steve's perspective, what are the pros and cons of coming back to do this one more time at age 57?
Only the only thing that I hope that he takes into mass consideration with his wife and family is his health. Because he could be part of the show and get and blow the roof off no matter what he does. And I wouldn't want to see him. Kevin Owens would be a great opponent, though. I'll give you that. If there's a guy that gets it in this business, gets it on how to put someone in the position to where he is just incredibly good. Kevin gets how to make guys, not make guys, but Kevin gets how to work and be and get the very best out of whatever situation he's in. That's my take on Kevin. And Kevin Owen is the guy that is so respectful. If anybody deserves the opportunity to wrestle Steve, it would be Kevin Owen.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Nate. He does a great promo. He works strong but simple. I don't think it
Yep.
would be overcomplicated for Steve coming back after all that time. It'd be stunner versus stunner. You kind of have that angle too. He's
I
cutting
love
the
it.
he's cutting the Texas promos. You're right. That would be the perfect guy for Steve to wrestle.
Oh, absolutely. But asking me how I feel about it, it's a decision he has to make with his family, and you don't ever know till you're out there how it's going to feel. You can practice all you want, but in practice you're not going full speed. But he looks great. He stays in great shape. Steve works out every day. Like myself, he has a beer once in a while, but that wouldn't affect his performance at all. That guy,
Steve,
can you imagine the the entrance in Dallas, Texas, of the broken glass, and boom, you walk out to wrestle? Oh my God. I won't be allowed at the event, but I'm gonna get in somehow. Hey, I already rented a box at AT&T. I was smarter than her. I was smarter than Nick Khan. I got my own box.
now now Steve didn't really break loose as a superstar until he just acted like himself, Nate. How many guys that have been real big stars are just amplified versions of their real selves?
Hmm.
I think that applies to you.
Amplified stars. You mean like live their gimmick?
Yeah, or their gimmick becomes the way they lived in the first place. I think that's what happened with Steve.
Yeah, he just, yeah, you know, well, he was, he's such a great worker. I mean, Steve Austin is a great worker. Um, but, um, I think I think the word great comes into play a lot easier when you're very comfortable with your character. Using my daughter right now, she has finally, not finally, she's always been great, but now she is so confident. And I mean, it's a whole different because they finally have established her as a heel and not a tweener. The tweener is really hard to get down when one day you gotta be this, one day you gotta be that. Does it make sense?
Oh no, and I'm sure she's very comfortable with what they have her
Oh
doing
my
now as
God.
well.
It's like night and day. She's not a tweener anymore. And Ronda is a full-fledged babe face. It's gonna be it's got to be the main event one night, and it's gonna be incredibly difficult. That's the thing now. Who can follow who? That's the kind of that's what makes WrestleMania for me. When you have this many great matches, it'll be who can follow who.
Now, was Steve the most over guy ever within a short time frame? Obviously cut short because of injury.
Yes, in my opinion.
That's amazing to say, isn't it? But I agree.
Absolutely. I don't think it's amazing to say at all. I don't know.
Well, no. I mean, from the standpoint, hey, you and I worked with Steve in WCW when he was stunning Steve Austin, when he was Pillman's tag team partner. And I always knew Steve could be way bigger than he was given the opportunity to be in WCW.
Absolutely.
But when he went to New York and just was himself and just, just burnished what he already was, to see it play out, that was the amazing part. I never doubted it, but it took a while for us to get a chance to see it, for him to get a chance to do it.
Exactly. But that's, you know, the thing that makes Steve so great and what he never quit. He never quit. I actually believe like he's like so much like Charlotte. They get up every day wanting to be better. And Steve is, dealt with the trials and tribulations, and he worked those long, long 70, 80-day road tours. I mean, Steve paid the price to be great.
Now, Steve, and you touched on this earlier, Rick, Steve revolutionized the merchandising business in wrestling. He took it to a whole different level, didn't he?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
And he designed a lot of his own T-shirts.
I did not know that, but I can believe it.
Yeah, I mean, he got a bigger cut.
John Cena designed all his.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that leads to a bigger cut to some degree. It gets me to thinking, H, what if back, like in the Crockett days, they would have merchandised you the same way? Imagine how big that would have been.
I know I wouldn't be on this show with you right now. I'd be on a yacht.
Okay, for one thing, you're on a boat half the time anyway.
Not a yacht though.
And you could never resist doing this show. Come on. But now Steve was a child of the Attitude Era. Would Steve still have been as big a star without the Attitude Era, and would the Attitude Era have been as big without Steve?
The Attitude Era would not have been nearly as big without Steve. And Steve would have been a big star without the Attitude Era. I don't even have to think twice about that.
See, I feel like Steve was the Attitude Era. I think that phrase has been used to encompass a lot that happened, but I think he was pretty close to the be-all, end-all, him and his feud with Vince.
Absolutely. I mean, it just, nobody saw it coming. It was absolutely phenomenal.
As on-air characters, did Vince make Steve or did Steve make Vince?
Now that's a tough question. I mean, I don't think anybody made Steve. I think Steve made himself. But Vince was the perfect. I mean, for a guy that never wrestled, never did anything, I mean, Vince had that promo. He has it to this day. And that's a gift. I mean, we all want to think that you're able to rattle us off and guys write it down. You got to feel it. When Vince talks, you know that somebody is drafted it because that's the way he likes to do stuff. But he says it because he believes that's who he is. And the same applies to Steve. I don't care what you write down for Steve or give him or what you maybe he didn't read anything. What Steve is saying he believes, and that's what makes it so good.
Now, yeah, I thought that, it's funny because when Vince became the evil owner, he was great. It'll never be done better. And you know how I know it'll never be done better? Because everybody's tried since then.
Absolutely.
It was weird because I loved it when he did it, but what it gave birth to, I wasn't crazy about. How about you?
Uh, you mean other people trying to do it?
Yeah.
Well, there's that. It goes without saying. No one's ever come close to being the owner and being active on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephanie brought a lot to the show too. Myself, I still like what were they called? Stephanie and Hunter. The Authority. I thought that was great. Stephanie McMahon is one of the top 10 best heels in our business.
Oh, no question.
No,
No
no,
question.
when Stephanie wants to get her shit on and fucking turn it on, Stephanie McMahon, I swear to God, is one of the best heels in the business. I use this extra all the time. You're killing me. She is something special, man.
Do you remember when he came with you on Flair for the Gold, your talk show?
Yeah.
Him and Pillman. I thought that's one of the great TV segments of that era ever. What do you remember about that?
Oh, it's great. They were basically telling me and Aaron we were done, which behind the scenes, Bischoff was trying to make happen.
Yeah, I watched that back on YouTube the other day. I remember when Austin said, "Rick, I love you. You're done with the place. You got that big old stuffed bear in the corner." And Pillman
Yeah.
goes, "Careful, Steve. That's double A."
I know. Yeah. Well, hey, great times, great places, great memories.
Now, if you can bring Steve back for Mania, you should. You got to. That's a no-brainer. But does that in any way diminish any of your current talents? If you feel like you always got to bring back the old guys
Well,
for
first
big
of all,
events?
but this is not the situation at all. WrestleMania will sell out with or without Steve Austin being there.
Right, right.
But if they want what they're trying to do now is blow a number on Peacock that'll be heard around the world by Brad and Steve.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, Steve will be down there. He's going to break the glass. He's going to walk out there. I mean, that the sound effect, and whether he's cutting a promo or wrestling, it's going to be huge. Everything Steve Austin does with the company is huge.
Now, you hear rumors of another big surprise at Mania besides Austin H. Who could that possibly be? I mean, we'd both be just guessing here, but who could live up to that hype of being a big surprise to stand alongside Steve Austin?
Stand alongside him or wrestle him.
No, no, not wrestling, but be on the same card where Steve is the surprise to wrestle Kevin Owens.
Just a name from the past, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, whether Rock, Cena, whoever.
It would have to be Rock.
But I don't think it's going to be. I think they're going to save Rock for when he wrestles Roman Reigns. I think that's Rock's big blow off at some point.
Well, you just asked me who I thought would be in terms of being equally as big as Steve. There's only one person that could be out, that would be The Rock.
No, that's the point. You made it. I mean, that maybe they should just stick with Steve and save whatever for later on down the road.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you're asking for someone that can stand out there and get the kind of reaction, it would be definitely be Dwayne.
Now, The Rock against Roman Reigns at some point would be huge, wouldn't it? See who the real tribal chief is. You got the storyline. You got The Rock, who is such a big star that transcends wrestling. I would love to see that happen, and I bet we do someday.
I hope so, because it's another one of those things that people have talked about for years. And when it finally happens, it's big. It's kind of like everybody talked about me and Hogan for years. It didn't happen, but you know, it did later on, but not at WrestleMania level. So
You give Roman Reigns credit all the time, and I agree with that totally.
it's fantastic.
It took a while. Why did it take so long for him to finally break through? But when he broke through so big.
Um, I don't know him well enough to have that the explanation of that. It it doesn't happen day one. He's been the handsomest guy, well built. I mean, he's got everything going, and all of a sudden, 2 years ago, it just maybe when he's been there. I mean, he's always been good, but then one day he got great, and I thought he did a hell of a job with Bill um, at the Elimination Chamber over in
Over in
uh,
Saudi. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that match didn't hurt anybody,
No.
I mean, the way they did it, and it was safe, and nobody was complaining, and Bill looked like $1,000,000. I mean, shit. Bill looked his body, Bill's physique was as good as it was, looked as in shape as he did back in WCW days.
Yeah, I think one thing that held Roman back was I thought they waited a long time to pull the trigger on him going heel. I think he's a marvelous heel. I just think he's better in that role.
Oh, I do too, but because he feels it. You can tell by the way he walks to the ring. He's got it. This is where it's at, guys. First of all, he's the handsomest guy in the business in a long time, but he's got it here.